What's up, YouTube? Deadrock here, bringing another video today, and welcome to the new format. Obviously, today's the day, April 29th. The new ban list comes into effect, obviously hitting Sky Strikers, but here is my new take on Sky Strikers. And honestly, I've been testing a lot, which is something I usually don't do. So I'm actually really excited. This ban list has done a lot for me to want to get back into the game, along with wanting to do YouTube and more. I'm actually really excited for Yu-Gi-Oh! And the first time in a long time. We have regionals coming up in 2 weeks, around there, and then we also have nationals coming up in like a month, 2 months ish. So like that's just super exciting. There's just so much to come, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, I definitely think that my initial impressions on the ban list was like, Sky Strikers is still viable, but it's definitely going to be not as powerful, which is true. But I think that the other hits of the list did a little bit more than I was kind of expecting. And within testing, I actually think that Sky Striker may still be the best deck of the format. I feel like I have found the proper solutions, and I might get a little bit of hate for it, or people are going to say it's underwhelming. But I do think that this is a really good build, and I'm going to explain some of the interactions with the new cards in the deck, why I think it's so good. And rip to Kagari going to 1, but I actually don't think it's that big of a deal. I think the real big issue was Engage and Widow Anchor. So yeah, let's get into this deck profile, and then around stick for the end. That's where I'm going to show some interactions with the new cards, some new plays for you guys to do, and why I think this card is better than other cards that people are deciding to tech in and whatnot. So let's get into it. So obviously, in our main deck, we're going to have 3 Sky Striker Ace Ray. This card is obviously the heart and soul of the deck. She makes all your Link monsters. She makes everything possible. So you definitely have to play 3 of her. And then we're going to get into our hand traps, because that's all we play for actual monsters in the deck. So 3 Ash Blossom. This card is just kind of standard staple at this point. So it kind of is, there. 2 Effect Veiler. Now, I think that 3 is an option, but I'm deciding to, I want to play other cards over Effect Veiler, but I think this is like way better than Ogre and Bell in the format. It just stops so much more. It has a lot more options for you to be able to stop so many monster effects, plus it's not a timing, so it's not a when. It can literally be used in conjunction with like Ash and something. So for like example, when somebody uses I use Ash Blossom on their Gazelle, and they go Call by the Grave on the Ash, I'm still able to use Effect Veiler to stop them from getting Gazelle's effect, which is usually the most important thing in my opinion. So that's definitely something to note. The only thing is that sucks is the fact that it is it's only during your opponent's main phase, so you can't stop stuff as well. But, it's not that big of a deal. Now, one thing to note, I think Altergeist might be played a little bit more this format. With the other decks slowing down, they're able to keep up a slight bit more of pace. And it is a spellcaster, so when they go for their Secret Village plays, if they're still playing that build, you're actually able to normal summon this, and they could try to Silk Bounce, but if you have your Twin Twisters, you are good to go. Stop their Secret Village, and you usually can just go off from there. So I think that's one thing I really like about this, something that I kind of noticed. And then the last hand trap, 3 Infinite Impermanence. Not everyone's going to agree that this card is completely necessary, but if so many decks are playing Effect Veiler, this is pretty much Effect Veiler, but on a little bit of steroids. So, for example, I think this is one card in the deck that you cannot actually cut for something else. You cannot be like, yeah, it is, you can substitute, like, just Veilers and then, like, put in Ogres or something. I think you actually need Infinite Impermanence. One thing to note, that in this build, we're not actually playing Afterburners. We are actually playing no Afterburners in this build, so sometimes Floodgates can be hard to get around. This really helps with the Floodgate issue, and obviously it's the hand trap secondary. Like, first of all, it's your hand trap. Secondary, it stops Floodgates. It can be just super powerful. You can set this alongside a Widow Anchor, and you use your Widow, and they expect you to have nothing else. You can still negate effects. I think this card is just absolutely amazing in the deck right now, and I definitely wouldn't be playing this deck without it. Definitely in this format. There's a lot of stuff. There's going to be a lot of combo decks this format, and you're going to want to be able to stop things. Alright, so that's all for hand traps. Obviously, we play our 1 Rhoda. It's self-explanatory. It's our 4th Ray. That's all that really matters about it. No one's gonna add, like, no one ever Ash Blossoms this. So usually you're always gonna have your engine if you draw this card. If there was more of these, you would play more. Alright. Now the card that didn't get touched that really should have. I really think Engage is a card that doesn't necessarily need to be put to 1, but having 2 of it, 3 of it is just crazy. Having 2 of it would definitely make it a little bit more fair. You'd definitely go through your engages a lot faster. I think this card is absolutely insane that they didn't touch it at all in this list, and is one of the reasons why I think Sky Striker is probably still going to be one of the best decks of this format, if not the best deck. Like I said, I really feel like this is probably the best deck of the format for Nationals. It's going to be your best choice. I want to see how Orcus plays out a little bit, because I'm not really sure, not as familiar with that deck as this deck. So, but I think that this is still probably the best deck of choice, because they also did not touch Widowmaker. Like I said, consistency in this deck is the same amount as it used to be. They didn't hit the consistency, they just hit the replayability of cards, and there's easy solutions around that. 2 multi-roll. This was one that I really wanted to play at 3. I felt like I needed to play 3 this format with the new list, but I feel like it's still too breaky, and I feel like the new cards that I'm playing kind of just make it not as bad to play 2, and I feel like 2 is just enough. In testing, it's just been so well done and so well for me. It's great. Then we play 2 Area 0, because obviously I don't want to play 3 of this again. Same reason as the last time. I felt like this is just the good ratios of the deck. I've always liked these ratios of the deck, so like I don't think I really need to switch it. If you guys watch my box tournament build, this is pretty much the same build, just with like a few minor changes to the extra deck and a few minor changes to this main deck, and then the side deck is a little bit different too, but very, very slightly different. 2 jamming ways. Salamander Gray is gonna be super relevant this format. A lot of decks like Rogue, we have Guru. This is super good. You don't want to ever get Solemn Striked. Searching 2 of these in 1 turn is absolutely amazing. You know, you play one of these and then you play an Engage to search another one. It actually comes up way more than you would think. It kind of turns the deck not really just turning your Widowmaker, just search Widowmaker. You know, it does a little bit more, you know, stopping your, like, Kagari from being Solemned is, like, super important since we only have 1 now. So I definitely think this card is, like, a card that, you know, you should be playing 2 of, especially with Roar and stuff like that in the game. It's just super powerful. And once again, I don't think Afterburners does too much for the deck. And then we get into our Sky Striker 1-ofs, which is 1 Horde of Drones, 1 Shark Cannon, 1 Eagle Booster, and only 1 Hercules base. We have other ways. This is one of the ways we can recycle Kagari, but I also feel like I love the fact that I can put back, like, a Jamming Waves or put back a Widowmaker. That way, instead of, you know, having to grab those from the graveyard, you can grab the Engage, research them from the deck, and then be able to +1, rather than, like, say if you ran out of them in your deck. A lot of times, like, your deck just does get that thin. So yeah, definitely, especially in this new format, it is a lot harder to win faster. So these games are going to be a little bit more grindy. Keep that in mind. I do think this format's a little bit more grindy than it used to be. Especially with, like, Summon Sword, Sound Sky Blaster, and Dark Matter gone. I definitely think that it's a slight more grind. Don't get me wrong, there's going to be a lot of OTKs, but I think this is the ratio. And the fact that you can search this is what I really like. End-Phase Shizuku Search this is a big play you do now, to be able to put back your Kagari next turn. I wouldn't play one without it. It was literally this or the 3rd multi-roll I'd be playing, and I feel like this is just better. So that's what I want to do. Now, the non-Sky Striker spells, Terraforming, kind of self-explanatory. Get you to your Area 0. This is better than seeing Area 0 because, you know, nobody ashes this in Sky Striker. It's always held for the Engage. So, yeah, I definitely think this one is either held for the Gauge or the Field Spell sound effect in Graveyard. That's the 2 things people ash in this deck. So, Terraforming, it gets a spell in Grave and gets you your Field Spell. 3 Call by the Grave, this card's just amazing. Self-explanatory, it stops hand traps, it stops monster effects in graveyard, it's just a super, super good card of the format. You must be playing 3. Now, this is one of the changes. I was playing 3 Twin Twister, now I switched it to 2. I feel like with the jamming waves, I'd rather have 2 jamming waves because they're searchable. It does a lot for the deck, and I feel like Twin Twisters didn't do as much. I think there's going to be a lot more combo decks like Thunder Dragon and stuff like that. So having access to this is good. Now, let's just rewind for a second. You might say, well, why would you, if you're going to think there's like a lot of Thunder Dragons and stuff that's not playing back, or why would you play 2 jamming waves? Don't forget, you can use jamming waves to hit your own field spell that's set to be able to special summon Kagari from deck and pop a monster your opponent controls. So jamming waves is extremely good compared to Twin Twister, where this is really just meant for your own back row. If you're hitting your own field spell with this, it could be not as good because you just minus so much more. But I definitely like Twin Twister. I think it's probably, still a staple of 2, but it's just not necessary at 3. And we're not actually even siding a 3rd. So that's kind of what. The Foolish package. Now, this is the last of the old cards, and then we're on to the last 3 cards of the deck, which is the new tech. These are just great. They get your engine going. They can put Engage in Graveyard. If not, then Metal Foes is going to be able to, add another card after you're already plussing from Engage or Widow Anchor. So I definitely think that these are necessary. A lot of times I side them out. If I'm going second, these 3 always get sided out. I do not play these if I'm going second. The only time I'll keep these in the deck is if I'm going first, because I feel like going second, these cards just do nothing. So yeah, self-explanatory there after that. And the new card, people are going to hate on me, but we are actually playing 3 Link Bound. This card is actually insanely underrated in my opinion, and I actually think Magnet Reverse in Sky Striker specifically is not good. Now, the only thing that sucks is if DD Crow is being played, this could hurt your Kagari, but there is a lot more application in the deck than just putting your Kagari back. Now, if you guys don't know what this card does, I'm going to read it for you. So basically, you can target 1 Link monster you control or in your graveyard. Return it to your actor deck, and if you do, draw cards equal to its Link rating. Then, place cards from your hand on the bottom of the deck in any order up to the equal to the number of cards you drew. So, a lot of the time, you are just putting your Kagari back from your graveyard to be able to get your Engage. Now, one argument about this card is that they say it's a hard neg 1, which is almost true. If you look at the card solely based on itself, it is true. It is a neg 1, easy neg 1. But it puts your Kagari back. Essentially, with 3 Link Bound in the deck, we're playing 4 Kagaris. I wish we had a way to search it. And I don't think that 3 Link Bound by itself is enough because to cut the Hercules base. And that's because Hercules base you can actually search. But this card, whenever you draw it, is an absolutely amazing card effect. But it is a hard once per turn. That really doesn't matter. And that's because it has other applications within the deck. That you can use it on your opponent's turn. It is a quick play spell card, and there's some pretty cool things we can do with this card that I have been figuring out and testing between me, my roommate, and our teammate Jason. We have learned some really good things with this card, and it's just significantly better than Magnet Reverse. Also, one thing I like about this card, Magnet Reverse is really dead turn 1. It really does nothing for you in turn 1. It just does, it's just like, meh. It is really not a good card to have turn 1. Link Bound is absolutely amazing to have turn 1 because you already can use your Kagari and not have to worry about it. And going first, they're not going to be able to call by the grave your Kagari, so you're already going to make sure you're going to be using 2 Kagaris that turn if you this game if you draw Link Bound turn 1. Now, you say, "Oh, well, I get to draw a card." Well, there's a lot of bricks in this deck, and I actually feel like this helps the deck out. Even just putting drawing a card and then putting a different one on the bottom of your deck. So are you just good for a reason? Because it +1s as well. But even its effect to unbrick hands or put stuff back in the deck is absolutely insane. So say we drew this End Metal Foes Fusion. This is also always going to be able to make us put the Metal Flow Fusion back in deck and get a different card. There's no chance that you draw Metal Flow Fusion, obviously, because you draw that card before, and then this goes on the bottom of the deck, making sure that you're not going to break it later as well. Same with the Hercules base. And then in matchups, like when you draw your Twin Twisters and stuff like that, this is going to be able to put it back in your deck that when you don't need your twins, say against like Thunder Dragon, this is going to be able to put it back in deck, and hopefully you draw a card that's better. So many times you can draw into Engage with this, and then you just really go off. I feel like that second effect in its own right is absolutely insane. Obviously, putting this back in your extra deck is already beneficial enough, but doing that to fix hands and fix bricks, especially when you're drawing multiples of like Terraformings or Area Zeros, just multiples of cards you don't need, you can put it back with this card, which is absolutely insane in my opinion. Now, also, why I don't really think it's a neg 1. I don't think it's a neg 1 because we are putting back our Kagari, and what does Kagari really do? You know, when we link out a Shiz or whatever we have on the field for our Kagari, we're always going to be adding back Engage most of the time. And Engage gets us +2 essentially, because if we make a Kagari, we are getting a card from our graveyard that we never had before. So Linkbound being able to recycle Kagari, you add off your Kagari, which is already evening out what Linkbound what Linkbound's neg was, and then if you have 3 spells in grave, which is, this is another spell in grave, you are also very likely going to be able to draw off that Engage. So just because you played Linkbound, you actually still went +1, even though it's a hard neg 1 by itself. That is one reason why I think that people just see this as a neg 1, but it's just really not, in my opinion. All right, like in Yu-Gi-Oh theory, in my Yu-Gi-Oh theory, it is definitely not a neg 1. So I think that like it is absolutely insane. That's not the only application. There's so much more this card does with the deck. We're gonna get into that at the end, but let's get into the extra deck here, guys, because I just ranted about why this card's so good. It's, like I said, it's just really good. Well, we'll get into more applications because it has more. I just explained the ones with Kagari. I'm going to explain the ones without Kagari, which is still insane. Now, extra deck, obviously, our one Kagari, our whole focus of this new build is one Kagari. This honestly sucks, but people are going to start to realize how powerful Shizuku actually is. Shizuku is absolutely insane. And this card keeps us in the game even without Kagari at 3, and I think it's just really, really good. Then 3 Hayate, self-explanatory. We need these, especially being down 1 Kagari, we need a lot of Sky Strikers in the extra deck, and able to keep our engine going. And then 2 Kana. I definitely think that like it's just a really good card. I was already playing 2 before this, but I think now with Kagari at 1, you definitely need to keep the count at least at 9, so you have to throw in another Kana. Its effect is absolutely insane. A lot of people are going to be playing Dinos because Misk is actually at 3. Now listen about this. This Conductor really hurt this deck before. Now, because they can just keep going, attacking over your Sky Striker stuff. If you don't have the Eagle Booster, you are just going to lose your engine. Kana actually stops that. It can stop Ultimate Conductor, which is absolutely amazing. I really, really like that. It make it so it can't attack and you're going to be able to keep your engine. I really, really, really like that about that card in that particular matchup. But it's negating an attack, or stopping a monster from declaring an attack until the end of the turn, or their next turn, is actually super underrated. I love that card's effect. Alright, so the next thing is Hiata. Now this card is, since we have extra deck room, it was something we weren't really playing before. You could have used it as a tech option, but I feel like that you didn't need to play it, but right now it's so good. Obviously everyone's playing Ash. There's so many Salman great players in the meta that you can make this very easily. You can still use your one and only Kagari to make this if you know you're gonna have a game. It helps you make Bora Sword OTK. And one thing, one interaction with Linkbound is actually, that helps you make the Bora Sword OTK a little bit easier. And I'll explain that in a minute after I'm done this. But yeah, Hiata helps you make Bora Sword. That's really why you play it. Plus, it's a spellcaster, so that's one thing that's really big about it. The fact that it's a spellcaster is another secret village out. You can use this. You can use Ash Blossom from your own hand. You can normal summon your own Ash, use your thing, have the spellcaster, and be able to still play your turn, and then be able to bounce it back to clear your zone with Link Bound. That's another thing. It clears your zones. But sorry, I know I'm having a little bit of in love with this card right now, but you guys will see why. I definitely think. And then we play our One Nightmare Phoenix. This is standard, as always. One Nightmare Unicorn, standard, as always. We have room for the Ningirsu, and I definitely think this is one you should play, because there's a lot of times that if you need to out their board, there's I think it's Transcode Talker, Update Jammer, Lock in Salaman Great. If they do that against you, you have no real out, but this actually helps you out that, since you can just use your two monsters here. You can use your Link monster here. We have lots of arrows that point down. Use another Hornet drones on that. Be able to send the Transcode Talker. Since this doesn't target, it just outs that little thing. So I definitely think it's a necessary card to have, just in case it comes up. And then one Bomber Dragon. This is like kind of a flexed option in the extra deck, in my opinion. I was thinking about playing Clara just as another spellcaster, a thing, but I don't know. I think that this is just a really good card to have. It allows you to put 3k damage on board most of the time, so it's just really good. And then the last card of the extra deck is Bora Dragon. This comes up way more this format, which is surprising to me, especially with the Link Bound. And like I said, I'll explain that in a minute, guys. But like, I don't know, in testing, this has been coming up a lot more than more than usual. I think it's because like the fact that we only have access to one Kokari in the extra deck. You're not so scared to like use your engine, because like you really just need to win the game, and this just gets over things. So I definitely think that this is a necessary card now. It was something that I feel like last format it wasn't, because the power of Striker was so strong that you didn't need it, but I definitely think you need it now. And yes, I know this is a very in-depth deck profile. We've like been talking for 20 minutes already, and we're only on the side deck. But I really want to explain my opinions on this and give you guys more reason than just saying this is good. I want to help out the community and explain my opinions and my thoughts on the game, because I do think that I'm a pretty decent player, at least. I'm very excited for this regional, to say the least. Now, first thing in the extra deck, side deck, is 3 Pankratops. Pankratops is just, I think, a side deck staple right now. This card is absolutely insane. It summons itself. It's a Cyber Dragon. It is a back row removal, another out for Village or Imperial Order, anything like that. This card is absolutely insane. If, I didn't find the Link Bound, this probably would have been in the main deck. But I don't think it's, necessarily needs to be in the main deck. But siding it every game, going second is just usually, a given. And it's just always clutch. There's so many games that I win just because of this card. So that's something that we will not take out. The next thing is, sorry, I have 2 proxies here, but 3 Artifact Lancia. I don't know where my Lancias are. I gotta really look for those. Now, Lancia is a card I wasn't signing in the format. It was this or Ghost Ogre, and I feel like Ogre isn't as good against Salaman Great anymore. I don't expect to see as many Sky Strikers mirrors, because I feel like people think that the deck has just lost a lot of its power, which it has, but like I still adamantly believe that it is the best deck to play of the format. So until that might change once the format kind of, pans out more. But I feel like against like Thunder Dragon, Orchists, Dinosaurs, because that is a really good rogue option for this format, just because Misk is at 3. This card absolutely blows them out. It just really blows them out. And also, like, with the fact that, like, if this helps our multi-roll so our stuff doesn't get banished, it's just insane. So I definitely think that Lancia is very good this format, and a staple. It just blows out other decks, in my opinion. And what is crazy is we do not side any spell cards this format. We're about to show you all the rest trap cards, guys. So 3 Heavy Storm Duster. This one is just because I don't want to lose to Secret Village, I do not want to lose to IO, and I do not want to lose to like Frogs or some stupid rogue deck that just plays a lot of traps. And like I just don't want to lose to those. So 3 Heavy Storm Duster, it is a little bit better than Twins. I just want to keep this at 3 though, because like, just in all honesty, it's so good. It's absolutely free. I know you have to set it and wait a turn, but Sky Striker is a deck that can do that because we still have our Widowmakers and other stuff. So I think this, the deck is strong enough and powerful enough to be able to stop opponents that setting a card isn't that big of a deal if we just have to use it later. 3 evenly combo decks, like realistically, this card is just really good. It is super sacky. It wins games all the time. Insanely good card. It is broken. I don't like it for the game, but it is broken. Now, the last one is 3. There can only be one, or there can be only one. Now, this card is a lot better in Sky Striker. Now, some people are going to main this, but I think the Link Bound is just way better. The reason why there can only be one is really good and better now than last format is we only have 1 Kagari, so sitting on a Shiz with a loaded graveyard of spells, and this is usually good because we don't really have to link out our different machine monsters, so this helps us to just like so much more. And it is win conditions against so many decks that like they literally like Salaman Great can't even out this unless they have Foxy or like Twin Twisters, which is a hard draw or like something that we can call by the grave or Shark Cannon away with the Foxy and the Nag. So I think this card is absolutely insane. I think that it is a flip win card. It is a flip and I win. It is also good against Orcus because a lot of their stuff is machines. A lot of times they have more than 1 machine on the graveyard. On the field. It is very good against Thunder Dragons, obviously, because they like to have multiple Thunder monsters on the field. This is one that, if we can't really out their board turn 1, this is still good if we're going second against Thunder Dragon, because we can set it, and they're just going to go right to battle phase, and you flip this and they're not going to be able to OTK anymore, and then you're just right back in the game because you're going to be able to like negate the 1 Colossus they keep with like Widow Anchor or whatever. So definitely an insane card. It's just so good against so many decks. Even against the Altergeist matchup, this is a pretty good card to have. It slows them down a lot. Yes, they can just bounce it with Silk, but they have to be bouncing one of their trap cards, and then we just reset it, and then it just keeps becoming a problem for them until they actually can out it. So I definitely like this card a lot. Yeah, that's kind of what that is. So that is the deck, guys. We play 41 in the main. As you know, I always play 41. Now, let's talk about some of the other interactions with Linkbound. And then we're done this video. It is super long, but I've done a lot of theory with this deck, and I love Sky Strikers. Probably my favorite deck in many years. Definitely my favorite deck since Fire Fist, and I think I probably like it more than Fire Fist. It's just something that I really enjoy. It is my play style, and I think it's a fair deck in a lot of ways, and unfair in a lot of ways, obviously. Any deck that's really good and really competitive is going to be unfair in a lot of ways, but I feel like Sky Striker is a deck that's always been more fair. It's not something like Goki where my opponent's literally not playing. I think it's just Sky Striker is unfair to the point that it generates card advantage very easily, and is able to win very easily, and it does stall your opponent, but that's what control decks do. They do just control the board, and a lot of people don't like that, and that's why Sky Strikers are so hated. Now, some of the interactions here, guys. So Linkbound is a quick play. I love the fact that it's a quick play because it goes hand in hand with one of the best cards in the deck, Widow Anchor. And you're gonna say, well, how does it really go hand in hand with Widow Anchor? Well, you can target a Link monster you control or in your graveyard. It's not just in your graveyard, so it doesn't necessarily always have to be Kagari. If you don't have your Kagari in graveyard, yeah, or you've already used a Link Bound on your first turn and you drew 2, it's still really good. Because if you have 3 spells in grave, one thing that's just really good is you could Widow Anchor the monster they bring out. So say they bring out Salmon Great Sunlight Wolf or like a Hiata, and they're obviously going to try to use that. Well, I want to negate and steal it. Now, one thing is, with Widow Anchor, that obviously makes my main monster zones used up, so I can't use any of my other Sky Striker spells. Now, I can actually use Link Bound on the monster I stole, bounce it back to their extra deck, and then draw for its Link rating, helping me fix my hand or just find cards that are better for my hand for next turn, which is absolutely insane in my opinion. This, like, for cards like Altergeist Hexia, you do this. Now, like, a lot of times when you would steal Altergeist Hexia, you don't want to link off with it because they're going to search. The fact that we can link bound it away and they're actually not going to get any, like, plus off of it or, like, any add to get their engine going is absolutely insane in my opinion. That is one interaction I just absolutely love with this card. Being able to bounce stuff back from their extra deck, draw more. Like, yeah, it is a -1, but my opponent's going neg anyway. I don't really care, plus I can fix my hand, like, or just get better cards in my hand. You know, so a lot of times I draw into, like, a hand trap or an engage or just any engine card. It just, I love it. And then you put back cards that, you know, that's not the greatest. And then, yeah, so, like, that's one interaction in the deck I just absolutely love. I think some decks are also going to be siding Kaijus. So a lot of times, like, when BA was super relevant, and there was a lot of times, you know, the players would actually use the multi-roll to send their monster after they already did all their turn, getting their Widow Anchors and stuff. So they didn't get Boral Sword OTK'd because they, you know, they just Gamma Seal and turn off everything. So I feel like that's one thing Link Bound can do, is it can actually just clear this zone so you're not going to get Kaiju'd if you're thinking of, you're going to play like an OTK combo deck that just Kaiju's you. Like Crusadia Guard Dragon is one that Link Bound is really good to do, like, to help with that type of thing. Now, another interaction as well, if the Impermanence or Valor your Kagari, which is going to be a very common thing, you can chain the Link Bound, put back your Kagari, and you're still going to get the add because the target's no longer on field, and so the target is now gone. It misses its target. Her effect resolves normally, and it's just super, super good. So it's almost like having another Eagle Booster that can dodge, and people say, well, that gets rid of your engine. Well, most of the time I'm heading back Engage, so I'm just going to be able to re-go into my engine, and if you say, well, then they're just going to ash your Engage. Well, come on, if I have an Engage in Graveyard turn 1 or any time like this, I probably have already resolved the Engage, so they would have ashed it. I think, you know, you make little excuses like that. These interactions are actually just way better than you would really think. So that's another interaction with it. Now, a lot of times we would want to do a Boral Sword OTK, but the thing with the Boral Sword OTK is that you have to make sure they still at least have one monster on field in the game, because you have to get the attack boost, because attacking with, I'll show you the play here. This is the regular Boral Sword combo. You attack with Boral Sword, it gains attack. You attack with Ray, you switch her to defense, and you attack with Boral Sword again. And that's usually 8k because he gained attack. Now, if your opponent has no monsters, you attack 3k, 3k, and 15. That leaves them at 500. Now, what's really cool is that Link Bound can actually help this. Makes the Boral Sword OTK more relevant here, because now we can steal all their monsters and not require them to have the monster to OTK them to gain his attack boost. And that's because you can literally make the Boral Sword attack twice with him, or attack with him, attack with Ray, attack again with him because for switching her to defense. Then you can use your Link Bound, put your Boral Sword back, and tribute the Ray to special summon a Sky Striker Link monster from your extra deck to get the last amount of attack off. That's not the only thing. Just the fact that, like, I'm just showing you the example that you can use these ones up here, and, like, that's just absolutely insane for me because it makes using stuff like Unicorn and Phoenix a lot more feasible in the deck. A lot of times you didn't want to use these cards, especially Phoenix, because it takes up your extra monster zone, but the fact that Link Bound can also clear that extra monster zone is just so clutch. It just does so much more for the deck than I originally thought. You know, at first I literally tested 2 Link Bounds and a Monster Reborn, because I wanted to see, like, you know, how good it would be, and then all of a sudden every time I saw Link Bound I thought, you know, man, I wish I had more, so I had to bump it up to 3. And then as soon as I bumped it up to 3 and, like, started playing more and seeing it more, I started noticing all these other interactions with it. and it's just so good. I think that, like, I think this card makes Sky Strikers just the same, almost the same amount of power as it had before. I know it is a card you have to hard draw, but the fact that, you know, we still have 3 engage, we have all these deck thinning options, being able to seeing this card is just super easy in the first place. Plus, we have the Hercules base to keep the deck thinning going until we see our link bound. And that is my deck profile. That is my explanation on new Sky Strikers. This deck, you do have to play it more conservative, a little bit smarter, but I think that it is almost the same amount of power as it had before. It's just a bit different. So guys, let me know what you think. If you don't agree with me on the link bound, I hope maybe some of these little interactions I showed you could have changed your mind and persuaded you a little bit towards it, you know, but I definitely think this is the way to do strikers right now. It's so good. And, you know, I just cut the strikes for this. That's literally what I did. I cut my strikes, which was the flex card. Some people played shared ride, some people played strike, some people played, you know, just a few other things, and, or, you know, they played the third multi-roll, the area 0. I feel like, you know, you have so many flex card options that I just switched the link bound for the flex card, and it made this deck absolutely insane. I've been winning most of my matches. I've been winning most of my games in testing. I think this deck is actually incredible still. So let me know what you guys think. You know, test it out. Don't just say your thoughts without testing it. Test it out. Let me know what you think. And let me know, what do you think the best deck of the format is. I think I'm going to get a lot of people saying Orcus is the best deck, or Thunder Dragon. But like I said, I'm a big believer this is the best deck of the format. Anyway, guys, like I said, please comment, like, subscribe. It means a lot to me. We'll talk to you guys later. See ya.